Picture this. You're a well-to-do Victorian family, living in a grand house with servants and all the trappings of success. Life is good except for one small detail. Your dear old Aunt Mildred has just kicked the bucket. In our day and age, you'd simply pop a few photos of her at the wake, maybe a nice shot of the casket, and call it a day. But not in the Victorian era. Oh no. They had a much more, shall we say, hands-on approach to remembering the dearly departed. Enter the bizarre world of post-mortem photography. You see, back then, having a portrait taken was a rare and expensive thing. So, if poor old Aunt Mildred didn't get around to sitting for a photo while she was still breathing, the next best thing was to prop her up and snap a picture anyway. I can just imagine the scene. The photographer arrives at the house, his assistant lugging the heavy camera equipment. They set up in the parlor, moving furniture aside to create the perfect backdrop. And then, in comes Aunt Mildred, stiff as a board and dressed in her Sunday best. The family gathers around, trying to maintain somber expressions as the photographer fusses with positioning the dearly departed just so. Tilt her head a bit more to the left. She looks too rigid, he might say, as if Aunt Mildred had any say in the matter. And perhaps, if young Timmy could sit on her lap, it would look more natural. Poor Timmy, scarred for life by the experience of perching on his dead aunt's knees. The resulting photograph would be a treasured family memento, displayed proudly on the mantelpiece for years to come. Doesn't Aunt Mildred look so lifelike? They might say, conveniently ignoring the glassy stare and the unnatural tilt of her head. It's a practice that seems macabre to us now, but it was a product of its time. In an era when death was a constant companion, and when many people didn't have the opportunity to have their photograph taken in life, post-mortem photography was a way to hold on to a loved one's likeness, even after they were gone. Of course, not everyone was comfortable with the idea. I can imagine the whispered gossip among the neighbors. Did you hear about the Johnsons? They had a picture taken with their dead grandmother. Can you imagine? But for the families who embraced the practice, it was a way to keep their loved ones close, even in death. So the next time you're flipping through an old family album and come across a Victorian-era photograph that looks a little too good to be true, take a closer look. You might just be gazing upon the stiffly posed visage of a dearly departed relative, immortalized forever in the strange and fascinating world of post-mortem photography.